Okay, so here we are, October 2019. What does that mean? That means I've been free of antidepressants for 1 year. So I quit Seroquel and Paxil cold turkey in October 2018. And guess what? I'm still alive. Not only am I still alive, I'm also alive. Um, I've mentioned before the negative side effects that Seroquel in particular causes. Just the complete lack of life. Um, I will give Seroquel its due in that it does not cause someone who suffers depression to go below the sort of level line. It also does not allow you to go above that level line, so there's no happiness, there's no joy. So since quitting Seroquel, what's happened to me? Well, I suffered the worst possible physical withdrawals anyone should ever have to go through. Having gone through it, I now have a better understanding of why heroin addicts keep taking heroin, because I'm led to believe that the side effects or the withdrawals are very similar, and I would not wish that upon anybody. However, with a bit of perseverance, you get through those horrendous withdrawals. For me, it took about 6 weeks before my body sort of felt okay again. We're talking headaches, nausea, changes in appetite, changes in senses, smell, etc., taste, all altered. I got through that. So that was October I quit. In the January, I had another amazing trip to Thailand where I just felt like happiness off the scale. Came back to New York after I think it was 3 weeks away. Came back to freezing Arctic temperatures and a completely hostile working environment. And from about February, March, I felt myself getting depressed again. And I had to do a bit of soul searching, and I came to the conclusion that the cause of my depression was the working environment I was putting myself in. So, to give you a quick background, I live in a basement apartment and I was working in an underground basement office. And that means there's no daylight, there's no sunlight, there's no fresh air. Those things were contributing to my depression. When you add in I want to be polite about this, but working with some of the worst human beings I've ever met in my life, having to spend 8 hours a day with those people was taking its toll. Having managers who were so far up their own buttholes that they couldn't see what was going on in their department. Everything about being in that place was causing me just such grief and was leading to depression again. So I took the brave step, and I figured I could stay in that job and get paid and remain unhappy, probably slip back into depression, have thoughts about suicide again. The thoughts, whilst I was not considering suicide back in February, March, the thoughts did enter my mind, but not to the extent they did 11 years ago. So I knew I had a choice to make. I had to quit that job for the sake of my own sanity, which I did. And I have lived a life with this kind of decision in mind. And what I mean by that is my wife and I don't have any children. We rent. I just recently, or when I say recently, last May, gave up my leased car. So financially, that was something that was on the table, that I was in a position that I could quit that job, which I had been at for 12 years, and take the time to think about the next step. So anyway, quit that job back in April, and was just living life and was just really, really having the most wonderful time. I didn't realize just how much that job had taken its toll on my mental well-being. It really was, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, like, oh, first world problem type things. Yeah, I got paid, sure. But the lack of daylight in my life was a huge, huge problem. And again, working with the worst group of people you could ever come across. We're talking backstabbers, snitches, liars. I had rumours spread about the place that were completely untrue about me. It was just a horrible, horrible place. So April, that part of my life was in the past, and I was just having the most wonderful time. And the intention was that my wife and I were going to go live in Thailand for a few months just to basically relax, unwind, and plan the next step in our life. We were supposed to have left for that trip, I think it was July 30, there or thereabouts. Unfortunately, July 21, my father passed away. And something quite remarkable happened to me when I got that bad news. Now, you see, when my mother passed away in December of 2015, that sent me into a huge, huge depression. That was so bad I had to get signed off work. I was absolutely consumed with, sadness, yes, but it also just the depression really was first, up front in my brain. I wasn't suicidal, but I felt hopeless. I felt just that it just wasn't worth our life. I don't want to over dramatize this, but I was in a very, very dark spot. When we got the news this July about my father, I was absolutely sad. I was sad beyond belief, but I wasn't depressed. And I felt guilty about that. I thought, why am I not depressed about this? And it took me a while to realize that the reason I wasn't depressed was that the major cause of my depression, which was that job, was no longer, hanging around my neck. I was now able to process this worst possible news without allowing it to affect my state of mind. So as a result of that, I'm currently in Scotland, back where I grew up, and again, I'm back in the house that I grew up in, the only house I grew up in, and I'm finding a lot of old artifacts and things from my childhood, which does cause me sadness, but it's not causing me depression. And I'm still having a hard time accepting the fact that I'm not depressed, because I feel guilty about that, because I think that all my life my default position has been depression when something bad has happened, and this was the worst thing that could have happened to me, and it's not caused me to slip into a depression. So now I'm at the point where I am going to continue staying here in Scotland for a couple more weeks to tie everything up. There's a lot of work to do, and then go back to America and then start the next chapter of my life. But I just want to say to anyone who is thinking about coming off these drugs, I probably should not have done it cold turkey. It's just that I had lost so much faith in the psychiatrists. Whenever I tried to, broach the subject of reducing the levels and with a view to coming off, they would instantly try to prescribe something else. All they care about are getting out these prescriptions because they do get commissions from Big Pharma. and I just lost faith in the psychiatrists that are out there. Maybe your psychiatrist is different, I don't know, but for me, I had to do this alone. It was not easy, but I'm glad I did it. And like I said, I'm in a position now where I can receive the worst news I could possibly receive, and it's not sent me into depression, which is quite remarkable, given my history of depression. Now, having been off it for 12 months, the question is, do I still get depressed? I'm going to say almost. There have been occasions where I've had to catch myself, because I think it's just the fact that I've always had this issue, and my first reaction to bad news or a sudden change in circumstance is to slip into depression. I've caught myself maybe 2 or 3 times in the last, I'm going to say 8 months, last 8 months. There have been occasions where I've felt myself slipping, but because I'm able to rise above that now, because I'm not being chained down by these drugs, I'm able to say, okay, you're slipping, and I can just, flick a switch, and I'm back out of it again. Now, I'm not saying that life is all roses and everything is wonderful. It's not. But I am able to deal with things a lot differently. And my thinking is so much clearer. And I'd like to think that in the past 12 months since coming off those drugs, that I'm able to, express myself a bit better. I actually still maintain that Seroquel caused me some form of brain damage, because there was a period just over a year ago where I was well aware that my speech had slowed down so badly, and that my thinking was short. I could not remember the simplest of things, and that's because of the fog caused by Seroquel. All my emotions had gone because of Seroquel. So now that I'm clear of all that junk, my emotions are coming to the surface, and it's I've probably cried more in this last year than I have in the last decade, simply because Seroquel is not suppressing all emotions. Because remember, Seroquel, whilst it suppresses negative emotion, it also suppresses positive emotion, and that's something to bear in mind. I've had a lot of people comment on my other Seroquel videos where they relate to everything I've said, and I think one of the most profound things about being on Seroquel is it just creates a lack of emotion, both negative and positive, and we need a bit of both in our lives. Simply staying on that straight line is no way to live, and that's how I felt. I just felt if that's what life is going to be, just this one flat line of no happiness and no sadness, I don't want that. I'm happy to accept a bit of sadness if it means I get a bit of laughter, and I've laughed a lot more. I mean, I can say I've laughed a ton in the past 6 to 8 months. You have to bear in mind that when you quit this drug, there will be horrible physical side effects, and it's not fun. It's torture, actually. But once you get past that, and you have that first bit of genuine laughter, you're going to know that what you did was worth it. I know I did. So anyway, this was the 1 year update. I'm very happy to be here. I have a lot of things to look forward to, and the fact that I can actually get out of bed at a reasonable hour is just something wonderful. Because I'm sure if you're someone taking Seroquel, 12, 14 hours of sleep is not unheard of. So the fact that I'm able to get by on probably 7 hours of sleep and wake up feeling alive is one of the best parts of this whole journey. So anyway, please feel free to ask any questions you may have. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a medical expert. I am simply someone who has gone through it, and I have first-hand experience. So I'm gladly answer any questions you may have, and please, nothing is off limits. Please, if you feel in any way that I can offer help to you, please ask for that help. That's what it's all about. So I thank you for watching, and please do like this channel, please subscribe to it, and we'll talk to you in the next video.